Using sand or dirt is a great method for making your cardboard projects heavier. You can also use cleaner things if you wanted to use like aquarium gravel. That could be a really clean way to do this. Or if you don't have a lot of dirt, sand is actually a better option. And I live in Michigan near the beach, so most of our dirt is actually pretty sandy and works really well for making heavy cardboard projects. Trash is the next thing you can use, and if you take a bunch of those plastic bags you get from like Walmart or Meijer and then wrap them up around a heavy little core, it could be some other piece of trash, or maybe you don't even need one, and then stuff that condensed ball inside of your cardboard project. It'd have to be a fairly square shape, or if you're like me, I made a cosplay mace with this method and it was so heavy that it was almost too effective. If you've got a big and flat project, you might want to use larger weights like scrap wood or metal that you can glue to the project to add some serious weight. You can do this by putting them inside if it's a little bit thicker, or if you only want one side of the project to look nice, you can just glue the wood to the back of the project like I did with this cardboard shield, and it still works great. And by the way, at the end of the video, I'm going to be sharing a few important factors that you need to take in consideration when you're making heavier cardboard projects, as well as a free resource that you can use to level up your cardboard crafting game. But if we're just meeting, my name is Eli and this is Maker Brain, where it is my mission to help you access and implement your creativity through DIY cardboard projects. So if you've been getting value out of this video or want to see more videos like it, then smash that like button and subscribe down below. The next thing you can use to make your cardboard projects heavy is nuts and bolts. You might have some of these lying around, and one of my favorite parts about this is you can use them to make an adjustable weight. So maybe you're trying to balance something out. If you glue a bolt to one side, you can screw the nut in or out to adjust the leverage, so it'll sort of change how much that weight affects the object, or you can screw different numbers of nuts onto it. Another thing about nuts and bolts is that they look a little more fashionable than some of the other options we're going to recommend, so it's not as big a deal if they're on the outside of your project, especially if you create more utilitarian designs. The next option is tape, and this is great for just adding a little bit of weight to your project, especially if it's a cylindrical object, because all you have to do is take your tape and wrap it around what you want to be heavier, and then you can fine tune exactly how much tape you use to get the perfect weight. Number 6 is poly pellets. These are super common little plastic pellets that people use to make like beanie babies and weighted blankets. You can buy them off of Amazon. I'll have links to that as well as everything else in this video that you might want to buy in the description down below. But these are great because they're nice little manageable beads that you would fill your project with. And because they're plastic, you don't have to worry about them like having plants grow in them like you do if you filled your project with dirt. If you want to make your projects really heavy, you could fill them with BBs. These are little metal balls that you shoot out of a BB gun. They're often made out of like brass or like heavier metals, so they'll be a lot heavier than the plastic, but function in pretty much the same way. Some people also recommend using glass beads to make your projects heavier. These are a little bit more expensive than some other options, but they tend to be cool to the touch. So if you're making like a weighted blanket that's supposed to keep you cool, then they're a better option. Number 9 is a little bit out there. Some people use cat litter. Of course, they're using the clean cat litter. Let me know in the comments below, how do you normally make your cardboard projects heavier? And if any of these methods interest you, they'll be linked in the description below, as well as a video about how to make your cardboard projects stronger, which is really important if you're going to start adding weight to them. Method number 10 is to use rocks. Now this is great because they're heavy and accessible, but because they're so big, sometimes you can't fit them into smaller spaces in your project, so overall you're not able to get your project to be as heavy. Also, they tend to kind of knock around inside of things, so whenever I use them, I like to add some cushioning around them so that when my project gets shaken, you don't hear rocks rolling around all over the place. Method number 11 probably gives you the most weight per square inch, and that's to use solder. So if you have the tools to melt solder, then you can do that. But beware, it's not going to work on projects that are flammable or meltable, of course. So this tends to be more common when people are working with ceramics and sorts of things that don't melt. If you're like me and have some like plain wire but no soldering iron, you could just bend that all up and stuff it inside your project to add a little bit of weight. If you think your project's watertight, you could use water to make it heavier. Of course, if it ever sprung a leak, you'd have a problem. Rice is another accessible option for making your cardboard projects heavier. And if you don't have that, you could opt for dried beans instead. However, both of these are foods. It could get moldy and that would be kind of nasty. These next two methods are great because they're kind of right under your nose the whole time. For 15, you can use scrap paper to weigh down your project if it doesn't need a whole lot of weight. People throw away so much paper all the time. If you just collect a little and cut it or fold it up into little bits and stuff it in your project, it might just work for you. This next one is my favorite because it's so creative in the way it just circumvents the problem. Instead of buying something to make your project heavier, just use pennies to weigh it down. I ran the math, and using pennies is actually just a little bit more expensive than buying sand to fill your project with. And it's actually cheaper than some of the other methods I mentioned. So maybe instead of taking a trip to Hobby Lobby, you'll be on your way to the bank. But if you don't take these next 3 factors into consideration when you're weighing down your cardboard project, the result could be disastrous. Number 1, child safety. If children are going to be accessing your project, you want the thing inside of it to be somewhat safe because kids have an innate ability to break things and eat the stuff inside. In such a scenario, you might rather have dirt inside of there rather than metal BBs. As I've mentioned a couple times, if you don't pay attention to how moist your project's gonna get, the stuff you could put inside could get moldy. Number 3 is the strength of your project. Once you start adding weight, you're putting a lot more strain on all of the joints of your project. So to make strong cardboard projects that'll stand up to this weight, click or tap on this video right here where you'll learn all the methods necessary to do that. Or click or tap over here to learn how to make really strong cardboard joints with your hot glue. As always, my name's Eli Tennant, and I pray that your next project would be the most fulfilling and enjoyable one that you have ever worked on. God bless you, and I'll catch you in the next video.